Well, Ohio's universities and colleges are among the state's biggest institutions struggling economically because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Today, Kent State University announced cuts to deal with major projections and current projections, topping $110 million. Mark Naymik explains what this means for the state's fourth largest university and its counterparts.
There's no way to sugarcoat it. Those are the words of Kent State President Todd Dyken in a letter to his staff and faculty. A blunt message many expected, and one that will be heard on campuses around the state. That's because no school is immune from the impact of the coronavirus. Forced to close their campuses, universities lost revenue from room and board, refunded some costs, and took on new ones as students and faculty moved to remote learning. To preserve critical services and classes, Kent State says it needs to cut its budget 20% for the upcoming fiscal year. It's suspending university travel, delaying nearly all building projects, and cutting staff salaries, including that of the president, who along with top administrators are taking the biggest cuts of 10% or more. Layoffs also loom, as well as the elimination of jobs. With on-campus instruction up in the air, Kent State and other schools are anticipating a potential drop in fall enrollment. The Inter-University Council, a trade group for Ohio's colleges and universities, is developing recommendations for reopening campuses to students.
The public university presidents understand the desire to have a common approach. You don't want Ohio State taking the exact same facts and applying a different answer than Kent State.
Faculty, parents, and students eager to know what campus life will look like.
We'll see what the protocols are in the private sector, and then apply probably a more stringent test to public university campuses, particularly for residential students.
Kent State is not alone. The University of Akron, which was already facing financial trouble, announced last week that it's bracing for more losses. Cleveland State University also trying to figure out a way forward. All of the schools told 3 News that the recent federal stimulus money is not enough to cover their losses, which means we're going to be hearing a lot more from college campuses across Ohio this summer. Mark Naymik, 3 News.